Welcome to Toffee TV. It is the instant match reaction. Everton have beaten Aston Villa 1-0 in the Premier League. What a win that was. What a performance by the Toffees this afternoon. Absolutely from 1 to whatever Harrison Armstrong's number is. Or roll, whoever. Just what a absolutely fantastic performance. We are just brilliant away from home, aren't we? We are just absolutely brilliant away from home. It absolutely suits David Moyes down to the ground with the players he's got to play away from home. It's just perfect for him. The way he can organise a football team, the way he can deal with tactically, the way he'll push opposition players into areas that they don't necessarily want to go, which means that they have to go probably wide after time and put crosses in, and we can deal with the crosses. It nearly started, obviously, with a goal after 10 seconds. It's the fastest ever recorded team hitting the woodwork in the Premier League, apparently, and you'll never sing that. And obviously we've had a goal disallowed. I'll come on to that in a moment. And then we got the goal. And to be fair, right, let's be honest, we absolutely deserved that win. Like, it wasn't spawny. Pickford's had to make one absolutely brilliant save. Of course he has. You're playing away at Aston Villa. He's had to make one absolutely brilliant save. But that's his job. That's what he's there for. That's his job, man. That's what he's there for. And he makes the save. But, again, you look back at, like, there's only one change from last week with Jack Grealish being back in the team. But I do think that team massively benefited from having that week off. From, meal and roll and mostly, I think. But some of the other players, you could just tell a week off not playing has benefited them all absolutely hugely. Getting a bit more training done, a bit more organisation, and just having that little rest. And I think, as I said, Mail and Roll is the one that benefited most because he's been out. So, so he came back from the injury so quickly. So I think it massively benefited him. And you could see the difference between the game last week and the game today with just having a few extra days rest and a little bit more organisation and training ground, being on the training ground and working with the manager. It was a massive, massive difference. Also, is a massive difference is having a right back at right back. It's been one of my things all season, but I do notice the difference of when you actually have a right back who's playing right back. And I thought, again, Nathan Patterson benefited from having a week between the games and having some rest. And I think that back four was, for me, listen, I can't wait for Branthwaite to come back. And we do need to get a right back. Let's not, let's not go mad. But just having that balance makes such a difference. Makes such a difference. A right back who's actually a right back. And who knows? I mean, I still want us to buy a right back, of course I do. But Nathan's got another game next week against Leeds, a week tomorrow. And who knows? He could establish himself in there for the rest of the season if they decide that they don't want to buy one right now. I'd rather see Nathan Patterson see out the season at right back than Jake O'Brien. I want Jake O'Brien playing centre back. Said that before. I know a lot of people want Michael Keane playing there, but it's not for me. I'm sorry. I want Jake O'Brien playing centre back if Branthwaite's not available. And I just thought that balance was so important. But the three in midfield today were absolutely fantastic. Obviously, already mentioned one in Mail and Roll. Harrison Armstrong, like they mentioned them on like half time. I think they mentioned them at half time in the Sky studio. It might have been Redknapp, and they were just like, Redknapp was like, "I've never seen this kid play before." He's like, he's the best player on the pitch. And again, Everton, sometimes this happens where you are right down to the bare bones and it feels like everything is really bad. But you know what? Some positivity can come from it because Harrison Armstrong coming back from loan and Maitland Rowe getting game time and those two playing with James Garner in midfield, that's such a huge benefit for us, those players getting minutes. It's massively positive. You know, it shouldn't be this case of, you know, Adrissa comes back after tonight and goes straight into the team, or Timmy Boonham comes back, or Dewsbury Hall. Of course, you'll have your starting players, but now Everton have options in the middle of the park, which means they have options coming off the bench. And in a game like that today, maybe you've got the options coming off the bench. You can bring a player on. And the more trust the manager has in players, because trust is such a big thing for David Moyes. You know, it is such a thing. It's why Asnu didn't come on. It's why Tyler Dibblin didn't come on. And I totally get that. Anyone who's ever played football, anyone at any level, is when you're in a really tough game and you're like, you look to the bench and you see who's on the bench and you're like, I don't know. They're a good player, but I don't know whether they can come on and do what we're doing, which is keep hold of know your job, keep doing what you're doing. And it's why I'm a massive advocate for going to get another centre forward, because I think you saw when Beto came on today, the difference with Beto and Barry, where Barry is starting to massively understand what it takes to be a Premier League footballer and the battles you have to win and the knockdowns you have to make. And I was made up with Barry today. I'll talk about that in a minute, but he's not going to take these chances in these games. Maybe when we get to 40 points, he will make those chances. He will start making taking those chances. But it's so important. And I totally understand why you wouldn't bring Asnu on, because where would you have brought Asnu on? You're not going to put him in as left back, and you're not going to take Jack Grealish off, because Jack Grealish is so good at keeping hold of the ball and winning you fouls. He's never going to come on anywhere else. He might have, and this is why McNeil started today over Dibblin. I don't necessarily agree with that, but McNeil had a decent game. He really had he had a decent game because he'd done his job. But those three in midfield today were fantastic. The energy they showed in the middle of the park was massive. And James Garner has just gone up such a level. Like, I know me and James, we talk in the studio and we're talking about him getting into England. And I was like, I don't think you know what? There's definitely a chance now that he's got an opportunity to get games for England. He looks so well-rounded as a midfielder now. Again, he wins. He's a little bit lucky today. I would say he's a little bit lucky. Maybe it wasn't a second yellow card when he pushed Morgan Rogers in the back, but he was a little bit lucky there. He didn't go initially to tackle him, and he let him run in the end. He just pushed him in the back, which I thought was a bit mad. But he's just become such a brilliant midfielder, and obviously Everton need to get that deal over the line. And I could fully see him now in that England squad. I really could. I couldn't see it before because I just didn't think he was that. But the consistency he shows week in and week out at this football club, he's gone up massively, and he's such an important. And it was towards the end there, he picked up the ball on the left hand side, won it back, and then turned and then went up the line with it. It was just they're the little things that you're starting to see from James Garner now that are massively important. And it's now you've got that one solid player in midfield. All those other things are starting to come into it. And as I said, Harrison Armstrong today was absolutely brilliant. He is a Premier League player. If they sent him back to Preston, I could totally understand it. But on the flip side, I think he should be left with Everton. But, he is absolutely knocking on the door. And as I said, Maitland Rowe, the difference between him playing the game last week at Hill Dickinson and the game today was like night and day. He looked so more refreshed. He had so much more energy. He was making good decisions on the ball. You know, he did tire, and that's where you got to look at your bench, and he was not on the bench. So so the manager has pushed him that little bit more, and we've got, you know, and he hasn't let us down. And again, that's massively important. But those three, that energy, that is huge. And again, I'm not like going overboard about it, but you know, them, Timmy Abunim, Adissa Garner Gay, Dewsbury Hall, that's a really nice little collection of players to work with in the net, you know, going forward. And we can, whether we want to or we don't want to, we can start like mixing. Drisser doesn't have to come straight back into the team. He really doesn't. But we have options now in the midfield. And I think that's so important. All right, we don't quite have another Dewsbury Hall. So Dewsbury Hall would come back into the side. But like, you've got a Dewsbury Hall, you've got a James Garner, and then you've got Malin Roll, you've got Harrison Armstrong, Tim Abunim fighting for that other place. And that's so important. We haven't had that for ages. And the importance of having a squad and the importance of having players on the bench is massive. We shouldn't ever look at the situation as the starting 11. That's it. It's a long season. We always get injuries. You always get suspensions. And it's that thing of not worrying about picking up that extra suspension or picking up an injury that a player might be out for a couple of games when those players can come in. And know what that does is it shifts the importance to other positions on the pitch. And you don't have to worry about a midfield, and then you can go, right, you know what? We can put loads of money into a right back or loads of money into a winger, you know, or whatever. Or we can save money here and put it into someone else's contract, like Njai or whatever. And that's massive for us. So having that midfield is massive. But as I said, Barry Barry up front took his goal brilliantly today. But just this general all-round play, and obviously I'll touch more on that when I do the player ratings, just this general all-round play was really good. I was critical of him last week for not being, against Wolves, for being quite passive. Whereas today I thought he really got stuck in to their centre-backs. And he scored again, which is huge. I love it when our centre-forward scores. It's massively important. Doesn't matter what anyone says. If you've got a centre-forward who's scoring 15 goals a season, then you will rocket up the league. Absolutely rocket. If you can depend on a centre-forward to score your goals, and I think he's getting a bit between his teeth now, and as I said before, my only thing is that secondary striker to come on for the last 10 minutes or the odd game. I think that's definitely where we need to be looking at now. And obviously we are looking there because we're linked with the lad, the Tunisian lad. And that's really important as well. It's really important for Barry's development as well, because he's not going to be brilliant, or he's not going to have a good game every single game. It's just not possible at his age. But I do, again, it's that thing of we all have to take a step back, and I do it myself, and I have done it myself. We all write some players off too early, especially when they're young and they have inconsistencies. And 1 week, you're listening to people, and it's, anyone who listens to like a phone in this week, it's like Mail and Roll. Oh my God, we've got a £20 million thing for them. It's like 20 million. Listen, good games, bad games. You've got to add the good games up against the bad games. Mail and Roll hasn't played enough yet, but Barry is starting to improve every game, and he started to score, and that's huge, absolutely huge. And the finish was absolutely fantastic because it wasn't easy. I know Martinez in goal. I mean, he is a clown, him, isn't he? He's a clown, him, because. But it's still a really difficult finish, and he puts it away. He puts it away with so his composure is so good, fantastic composure to put that away. So, and he had a really good game, and it's just, as I said, it's when he goes off, you've got to have someone to come on to replace him in those moments. So, as I said, you can't fault anyone today. You can't fault anyone. The centre backs, Toffee and Jacob Brien, Tarky, don't tell me that Tarky doesn't look a million times more comfortable when he's playing with Jake O'Brien. Like, no one can tell me that he doesn't look more comfortable when he's playing with Jake O'Brien. That's not a go at anybody else, but he just looks more comfortable. I mean, not as comfortable as he does with Jake O'Brien. But he just looks so much more comfortable. Michalenko had a good game. Patterson, as I said, has a good game. Grealish has quietly gone without on his business. And I know there's a lot of talk about Grealish because he said he wants to stay at the club. And Moyes has put stuff out that it's like, well, you're going to have to work a bit harder, aren't you? But even by just doing the basics today, Jack has sort of, again, what I like about Jack is, the spotlight goes on Jack and Jack takes the spotlight and it attracts so many players to him. And he just does the basic thing. Now, whether that's worth 30 million quid, I don't know. I'd buy him. That's my personal opinion. I'd buy him. I'd get every last bit of Premier League class out of him on the pitch, but also off the pitch. I do think it's massive for the club that we have a player like him playing for us. That might not sit well necessarily with all the football manager anorak type people, but that's just my opinion. I think sometimes it's you know, it is what it is. And hopefully now, as I said, there's only, when you look at the squad, really now, there's only really Tyler Diblin, who is the player who is sort of and Asnu, I suppose, as well. But Tyler Diblin is the only one where it's like, still got to see something from him. But that's fine, because if he's the only one and everybody else is sort of settled into the team now, then it will be much easier for him to come into the side and feel a lot more comfortable, and the pressure will be off. And I think that's where Moyes, hopefully going forward, can point at other players and say, well, they've struggled, but look at them now. And if the pressure starts coming off Tyler a little bit, because Tyler is a really good player, and I don't think anyone should panic. I really don't. I don't think anyone should panic about Tyler Diblin. I know there's a lot of overreaction to it. I try my best not to get involved in that stuff. There's a lot of overreaction when people pay the money we paid. But I'm telling you now, the money we paid for Tyler Diblin and the money we paid for Tino Barry is not that much in football terms. It is not that much anymore. It's just because we've gone through the last 4 years of being so lean and not buying players that the minute we do pay over 30 million for a player, it suddenly becomes like, oh my God, we're spending all of our money. It's not big money anymore. 35 million is not big money anymore. It just isn't. And as almost as disgusting as that sounds, it's true. So just let Tyler Diblin I want him to play. I want him to start today, but I still understand why the manager doesn't, because the manager wants to win games of football. And as I've said, when we get to that point to where the manager feels comfortable, then hopefully we will start seeing Tyler Diblin play more. But it is what it is. He's 19 years of age. He's come into our club. Honestly, £42 million, even if you call it £42 million, is not a lot of money in football now. It just isn't a lot of money. You might think it's a lot of money, but go and look at some of the transfers out there. Go and look at some of the transfers from the summer. £40 million or whatever it is not a lot of money anymore. He's a 19-year-old who's got his whole career ahead of him and could have his whole career at Everton if we do well and he does well. It's not a lot of money. It really isn't. It just isn't in football anymore. And we have to realise that. We really do. It's just not. So if you think it is, then it is, but it just isn't. It just isn't a lot of money in football anymore for a player who could be with us for over 10 years if we do things the right way. And all we've got to do is let him settle in. Let him settle into the football club. So The only thing I will talk about was, which I just found mad, and it doesn't really matter, I suppose, now, with the goal that got disallowed. The goal that got disallowed for me was just absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. I don't understand offside anymore. I just don't understand offside. This whole thing of like, he went for the ball. Well, for me, if Harrison Armstrong isn't there, we still score that goal, no matter what. If Harrison Armstrong is taken away, we still score that goal. Simple as that. And that to me tells you whether it's a goal or not. This whole thing of he jumped for the ball, he didn't do anything. He did. It was only going to one person's head, and it was Jake O'Brien's head. It wasn't going anywhere else. It was going to Jake O'Brien's head, no matter what. Because even if Harrison Armstrong jumped, that would have also upset. Like, that would have. How many times you see players go for the ball, but then another player on their team stands in front of them, and they go for the ball, and it puts them off. It didn't put Jake O'Brien off because the ball was never going to Harrison Armstrong, ever. And Harrison Armstrong, it doesn't matter if he was there or not. Absolute nonsense. And I'm just going to say this right now. The linesman got it wrong. The linesman put his flag up because he thought Harrison Armstrong was Jake O'Brien. Dead simple. Dead simple. If he doesn't put his flag up, VAR don't look at that. I am telling you now, VAR, and that's what, again, makes it a joke, makes VAR a joke. Because if he doesn't put his flag up, VAR aren't looking at that goal. I'm 100% sure of it. They'll look at it and go, nah, that's fine. But because the flag went up, they've had a good look. And again, what, we need to disallow this. What are you disallow? We need to find something, because our mate's put his flag up, and we can't go against our mate, because we're playing pool with them on Thursday night, and he'll be upset if we make him look like a tit, or he mightn't come, and if he doesn't come, then we can't play pool or darts. It's nonsense. It's absolutely nonsense. This is again where football just needs to make its mind up about what it's doing. Like, it's absolute bollocks. The guy who scores is either onside or offside. I understand when it's like, if Harrison Armstrong had headed it and the keeper had saved it, or genuinely, I would have understood it if the guy that was marking Harrison Armstrong had a chance of winning that ball, and because of something Harrison Armstrong's done, has stopped him winning the ball. But it didn't. It absolutely didn't. It's only going to one place, and it's Jake O'Brien, because he's 6'5". It ain't going anywhere else. What was that? What would the lad have done? If Harrison Armstrong had just stood there, like, with his arms folded, would the lad have run round Harrison Armstrong and jumped to stop Jake O'Brien getting the ball? No, he wouldn't have. Because it was only going one place, and that was to the big 6'5" Irish fella. And that's it. So, utter bollocks. It ultimately doesn't matter. Everton have won, and we should all be happy. And we are all happy. We're 10th in the Premier League, 32 points. And Thierry Barry is like the new Pele, basically. Or the new Thierry Henry. So, yeah. And again, Sue the Bellends in the comments calling Dibbling shite. He's not shite whatsoever. Give your head a wobble. He's a very, very young lad. So give your head a wobble, because you just look stupid by saying stuff like that. So good 1-0 win. Very, very happy with that. There you go. Right. I am going to go and I'm going to do the player ratings, and all you've got to do is stay here. Please come and come over to the player ratings. You don't have to do anything. Just stay here, and it will automatically take you over to the player ratings, and we will do those player ratings very, very shortly. And then once you've watched that, you can just get on with the rest of your night. Just get on with the rest of your night. There you go. Thanks for watching. Come and check out the play ratings. See you in a sec.